Which would you bet your life on? The rapid-fire Henry rifle or the Colt Peacemaker? These two cowboys are packing more than just heat. They're carrying the most feared weapons of the Wild West. And in the next 20 minutes, we're counting down the firepower, the myths, and the shocking truths behind them. Could a shotgun really clear a room? Could a single bullet stop a charging buffalo? You won't believe what these frontier tools could do and how many men they sent to their graves. Think you know your Wild West weapons? Think again. Number 11, the Colt Single Action Army, the Peacemaker. Let's start with the weapon that earned the nickname, the gun that won the West. But here's the catch. It wasn't called the Peacemaker because it brought peace. It was called that because it permanently silenced anyone who opposed it. Picture the weight of this iron beast in your hand. Nearly 3 pounds of cold steel and walnut grip. The Colt Single Action Army, with its distinctive .45 caliber punch, could drop a full-grown man at 100 yards. What made this weapon so deadly wasn't just its stopping power, but its reliability. While other guns jammed in desert sand or froze in mountain cold, the Peacemaker kept firing. Legendary gunslinger Wild Bill Hickok carried 2 of these beauties, and for good reason. The .45 long Colt cartridge it fired was a massive slug of lead that didn't just wound, it destroyed. One shot to the chest would create a wound cavity so large that survival was nearly impossible with 1800s medical knowledge. The bullet's slow velocity meant it stayed inside the target, transferring all its devastating energy to vital organs. But despite its legendary status, the Colt had a fatal flaw that cost many cowboys their lives. The single-action mechanism required the hammer to be manually cocked before each shot. In a fast-draw situation, that extra split second could mean the difference between life and death. Many skilled gunmen met their end because their opponent's double-action revolver fired just a fraction faster. And if you think the Peacemaker was deadly, wait until you discover the weapon that could kill 3 men with a single pull of the trigger. Number 10, the sawed-off shotgun, the street sweeper. Imagine a weapon so devastating that a single blast could clear an entire saloon. That's exactly what the sawed-off shotgun delivered. This wasn't just a gun. It was portable artillery in the hands of legendary lawmen and outlaws alike. The genius of the sawed-off lay in its brutal simplicity. By cutting the barrel down to 12 to 18 inches, cowboys created a weapon that fired a devastating spread of buckshot. Typically .930 caliber lead balls, traveling at over 1,200 feet per second. At close range, it was like being hit by 9 bullets simultaneously. The spread pattern meant you didn't need perfect aim. You just pointed and devastated everything in front of you. Doc Holliday, the deadly dentist turned gunfighter, made the sawed-off shotgun his weapon of choice during the famous gunfight at the OK Corral. He knew that in close quarters combat, nothing could match its stopping power. One blast from his 10 gauge could literally lift a man off his feet and throw him backward several feet. What made this weapon particularly feared was its psychological impact. The distinctive sound of a shotgun being cocked was enough to make even the bravest outlaws think twice. Cowboys called it the Great Equalizer because it didn't matter if you were facing the fastest gun in the West. At close range, the sawed-off shotgun's spread meant certain death. But here's the deadly trade-off that many cowboys learned too late. While devastating at close range, the sawed-off was nearly useless beyond 30 yards. The spread pattern that made it so lethal up close meant the pellets lost their concentrated impact at distance. Many cowboys died because they brought a shotgun to a rifle fight. Could this next weapon be the most underestimated killer of the frontier? Number 9, the Bowie Knife, the Arkansas toothpick. In the hands of a skilled cowboy, the Bowie knife wasn't just a tool. It was a 12-inch razor-sharp instrument of death that could kill in complete silence. Named after the legendary Jim Bowie, this massive blade became the ultimate close combat weapon of the American frontier. Picture a knife so large it was almost a short sword. The classic Bowie featured a curved, razor-sharp edge that could slice through leather, bone, and flesh with terrifying ease. The distinctive clip-point design created a needle-sharp tip, perfect for thrusting attacks. While the curved edge delivered devastating slashing wounds, what made it truly deadly was the false edge on the back, a sharpened section near the tip that could slice on both the forward and backward stroke. The legendary mountain man, Hugh Glass, who famously crawled 200 miles after a bear attack, survived using only his Bowie knife to defend himself from wolves and hostile tribes. The knife's design allowed for both utility work and lethal combat. You could skin a buffalo one moment and defend your life the next. But here's what made the Bowie knife so feared. It never ran out of ammunition, never jammed, and never misfired. In the hands of an expert, it was absolutely silent, making it the perfect weapon for nighttime reads and stealth attacks. Cowboys who mastered the Bowie could throw it with deadly accuracy up to 30 feet, turning it into a lethal projectile weapon. The weakness that proved fatal to many Bowie knife wielders was simple: you had to get close to use it. Against multiple opponents or anyone with a gun, the knife fighter was at a severe disadvantage. Many skilled knife fighters met their end trying to close the distance against armed opponents. And if a 12-inch blade seems intimidating, wait until you see the weapon that could punch through a man's chest from 50 yards away. If you're as fascinated by these legendary weapons as we are, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps us know what deadly secrets you want to uncover next. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the most brutal weapons that shaped American history. Let's discover these forgotten killing machines together. Number 8. The Henry Rifle. The gun you load on Sunday and shoot all week. Imagine carrying a weapon that could fire 16 rounds as fast as you could work the lever in an era when most rifles fired once and required a full minute to reload. The Henry Rifle wasn't just a gun, it was a revolution in killing efficiency that changed warfare forever. This .44 caliber lever-action marvel could be loaded on Sunday morning and provide enough firepower to last an entire gunfight. The tubular magazine held 15 rounds plus one in the chamber, giving skilled marksmen like Buffalo Bill Cody an enormous advantage over single-shot opponents. The brass receiver gleamed like gold in the desert sun, earning it the nickname Yellow Boy among Native American tribes who quickly learned to fear its rapid-fire capability. What made the Henry Rifle absolutely deadly was its combination of accuracy and speed. A skilled shooter could maintain aimed fire at a rate of 30 rounds per minute at distances up to 300 yards. The .44 Henry cartridge, while not as powerful as some single-shot rifles, was more than adequate to drop a man or horse with proper shot placement. The relatively flat trajectory meant less guesswork at medium ranges. Wild West legend Benjamin Tyler. Henry designed this weapon after seeing too many good men die while trying to reload single-shot rifles under fire. His creation could fire as fast as a man could work the lever, creating a continuous stream of death that could break enemy charges or hold off superior numbers. But despite its revolutionary design, the Henry Rifle had a critical flaw that cost lives in dusty frontier conditions. The open magazine tube at the front of the weapon collected dirt, sand, and debris, causing frequent jams at the worst possible moments. Many cowboys died when their Henry Rifle seized up in the middle of a firefight. Do you think rapid-fire capability was the ultimate advantage? Wait until you discover the weapon that could kill from over a quarter mile away. Number 7. The Sharps Rifle. The Buffalo Gun. Picture a rifle so powerful it could drop a 2,000-pound buffalo at 500 yards with a single shot. And then imagine that same weapon in the hands of a skilled sniper, picking off enemies from distances they never thought possible. The Sharps rifle wasn't just a hunting weapon. It was a long-range assassination tool that dominated the frontier. This massive single-shot rifle fired cartridges that were absolute monsters. The 50 to 70 government round contained 7 grains of black powder behind a 450-grain bullet. When that massive slug hit its target, it didn't just wound, it completely destroyed whatever it struck. The kinetic energy was so tremendous that a hit anywhere on the torso was almost certainly fatal. Legendary marksmen like Billy Dixon used the Sharps to make shots that seemed impossible. During the Battle of Adobe Walls, Dixon reportedly killed a Native American warrior at a distance measured at 1,538 yards, nearly 9/10 of a mile. The psychological impact of such long-range killing was devastating. Enemies knew they could be picked off from distances where they couldn't even see the shooter. What made the Sharps particularly deadly was its incredible accuracy. The heavy barrel and precision manufacturing meant that in skilled hands, it could consistently hit man-sized targets at ranges exceeding 800 yards. The tang sight allowed for precise elevation adjustments, turning the rifle into a precision instrument of death. But here's the fatal limitation that cost many Sharps users their lives. It was a single-shot weapon in a world increasingly dominated by repeating rifles. After that one perfectly placed shot, you had to reload, a process that took precious seconds during which you were completely vulnerable. Many skilled marksmen were overwhelmed by multiple opponents while trying to reload their empty Sharps. Could there be a weapon even more terrifying than a long-range killer? Wait until you see what happens when you combine a gun with a medieval war club. Number 6, the Tomahawk, the silent death. In the right hands, the Tomahawk was the perfect fusion of Stone Age brutality and frontier practicality. A weapon that could split firewood one moment and split skulls the next. This wasn't just a Native American weapon. Many legendary cowboys adopted it as their close combat weapon of choice. Picture a perfectly balanced piece of steel and wood, typically weighing just over a pound, with a razor-sharp blade on one side and often a spike or hammer on the other. The Tomahawk's design was pure efficiency. The narrow blade concentrated all the force of a swing into a small area, creating devastating, penetrating wounds. A skilled wielder could bury the blade completely through a man's skull with a single overhead strike. Legendary frontiersman Daniel Boone carried a tomahawk throughout his wilderness adventures, and for good reason. Unlike knives, the tomahawk's length and weight gave it tremendous striking power. The combination of sharp steel and heavy impact meant it could punch through thick leather, cloth, and even light armor that might stop a knife blade. What made the tomahawk absolutely terrifying was its throwing capability. A skilled warrior could accurately throw a tomahawk up to 20 yards, and the rotating blade could inflict mortal wounds, even if it didn't stick in the target. The psychological impact of facing someone skilled with a tomahawk was enormous. You knew they could kill you from a distance without making a sound. But the tomahawk's greatest strength was also its most dangerous weakness. As a close combat weapon, it required you to get within arm's reach of your enemy. Against opponents with longer weapons like spears or rifles, the tomahawk user had to close distance across open ground, making them vulnerable to ranged attacks. And if you think a tomahawk was brutal, wait until you discover the weapon that could literally blow a man apart. Number 5, the Walker Colt, the hand cannon. Imagine a handgun so powerful that its recoil could break a man's wrist and its bullet could punch through a horse and kill the rider behind it. The Walker Colt wasn't just a revolver. It was portable artillery that fired the most powerful handgun cartridge ever created. This massive weapon weighed over 4 pounds when fully loaded and fired a .44 caliber bullet backed by 60 grains of black powder, creating more muzzle energy than many rifle cartridges. The Walker's 9-inch barrel gave the enormous powder charge time to burn completely, launching 220 grain bullets at over 1,400 feet per second. The impact was so devastating that it could literally tear a man's arm off if struck in the shoulder. Texas Ranger Captain Samuel Walker, for whom the gun was named, requested this level of power after seeing too many opponents survive hits from smaller caliber weapons. He wanted a handgun that would drop an enemy with a single shot, no matter where it hit. The Walker Colt delivered that killing power in spades. What made this weapon particularly deadly was its penetration capability. The massive bullet could punch through multiple layers of clothing, leather armor, and still have enough energy to create fatal wounds. Stories from the Mexican-American War describe Walker Colt bullets passing completely through one man and mortally wounding a second. But here's the critical flaw that made the Walker Colt as dangerous to its user as to the enemy. The enormous powder charge created cylinder failures that could literally blow up in the shooter's hand. Many of the original 1,000 Walker Colts manufactured suffered catastrophic failures that maimed or killed their users. The weapon was simply too powerful for the metallurgy of its time. Do you think maximum power was worth the risk? The next weapon on our list proves that sometimes the deadliest approach is the most unexpected. Incredible, right? Who knew these legendary weapons held such deadly secrets? If you have any thoughts about which weapon was the most brutal, drop them in the comments below. We love hearing your insights and might even feature your comment in our next deadly discovery. And don't forget to subscribe and join our community of Wild West weapon enthusiasts. There's so much more lethal history to uncover. Number 4. The Pepper Box Revolver. The Pocket Devastator. Picture a weapon that looked like a miniature Gatling gun but fit in your pocket. The Pepper Box Revolver was the ultimate concealed weapon of the Wild West, capable of unleashing multiple rounds in rapid succession when least expected. This bizarre-looking handgun typically featured 4 to 6 barrels arranged in a circle, each loaded with its own cartridge. What made it absolutely deadly was the element of surprise. It looked nothing like a conventional gun, often mistaken for a strange tool or mechanical device. When trouble started, the pepper box could fire all barrels in quick succession, creating a devastating hail of lead. Riverboat gamblers and traveling merchants favored the pepper box because it could be easily concealed and provided multiple shots without reloading. In close quarters situations like saloon fights, the ability to fire 4 or 6 shots rapidly gave the user an enormous advantage over single-shot opponents. The genius of the pepper box design was its simplicity. Each barrel was essentially a single-shot pistol, but the rotating mechanism allowed them to be fired one after another by simply pulling the trigger. This made it more reliable than complex revolving cylinder mechanisms that could jam with dirt or powder residue. But here's what made many pepper box users victims of their own weapon. The multiple barrels made the gun front-heavy and difficult to aim accurately. The rotating mechanism also meant that multiple loaded barrels were always pointing in different directions, including sometimes at the user. Accidental discharges were common and often fatal. Could a weapon get any more unpredictable? Wait until you see the knife that cowboys used to scalp their enemies. Number 3. The Scalping Knife, the Soul Stealer. In the brutal reality of frontier warfare, some weapons were designed not just to kill, but to terrorize, and nothing struck fear into the hearts of enemies like the distinctive curved blade of a scalping knife. This wasn't just a weapon, It was a psychological warfare tool that could break an opponent's will before the fighting even began. Picture a blade, typically 4 to 6 inches long with a distinctive curved edge, perfectly designed for its grisly purpose. The thin, razor-sharp steel could slice through skin and hair with minimal resistance, while the curved shape allowed for the precise cuts needed to remove a scalp cleanly. Many frontier cowboys adopted this weapon after witnessing its effectiveness in Native American warfare. What made the scalping knife particularly terrifying was its symbolic power. Just seeing one meant the fight was going to be a battle to the death with no quarter given. The psychological impact often caused enemies to flee rather than face the possibility of such a gruesome fate. Cowboys who carried scalping knives were sending a clear message. They were willing to cross lines that others wouldn't. The weapon's small size made it perfect for concealed carry, and its sharp edge served practical purposes beyond combat. It was excellent for detailed cutting work, preparing food, and general utility tasks. This dual-purpose nature made it a favorite among frontiersmen who needed to travel light. But the scalping knife's greatest weakness was also its most obvious. It was purely a close combat weapon with a very short blade. Against any opponent with longer reach or ranged weapons, the knife user was at a severe disadvantage. Many skilled knife fighters died trying to close distance against better armed opponents. Are you ready for the weapon that could kill without ever being drawn from its sheath? Number 2, the sword cane, the gentleman's assassin. Imagine walking into a saloon carrying what appeared to be an elegant walking stick, only to reveal a razor-sharp blade that could pierce a man's heart in one swift thrust. The sword cane was the ultimate in concealed weapons, a deadly surprise that looked like a harmless gentleman's accessory. This ingenious weapon consisted of a thin, flexible blade concealed inside a wooden or metal walking stick. The handle contained the grip, while the shaft hid 24 to 30 inches of steel, sharp enough to slide between ribs and puncture vital organs. The blade was typically designed as a thrusting weapon, narrow, pointed, and incredibly sharp along its edges. Elegant gamblers and con artists favored the sword cane because it allowed them to appear unarmed while carrying a lethal weapon. The element of surprise was total. Opponents expecting a fist fight would suddenly face cold steel. Many duels ended before they properly began when one participant revealed their hidden blade. What made the sword cane particularly deadly was its thrusting design. Unlike slashing weapons that could be blocked or deflected, a properly executed thrust with a sword cane was nearly impossible to defend against. The narrow blade could slide between ribs, puncture lungs, or pierce the heart with minimal external bleeding, making the wounds deceptively lethal. But here's the fatal flaw that cost many sword cane users their lives. The blade was necessarily thin and flexible to fit inside the walking stick shaft. This made it fragile compared to purpose-built swords or knives. Many sword canes broke when used for anything other than perfect thrusting attacks, leaving their users defenseless with a broken weapon. The final weapon on our list might just be the most savage of all. Are you ready for the ultimate frontier killing machine? Number 1, the war club, the skull crusher. Picture the most primitive weapon on our list, and paradoxically, one of the most effective killers ever carried by frontier cowboys. The war club represented pure, brutal efficiency. A heavy stone or metal head attached to a wooden handle, designed for one purpose: crushing skulls and breaking bones. This devastating weapon typically consisted of a stone or iron head, weighing 2 to 4 pounds, mounted on a 18 to 24-inch wooden handle. The concentrated weight created tremendous striking force, while the compact design made it incredibly fast in close combat. A single overhead blow could cave in a man's skull, while strikes to limbs could shatter bones beyond repair. Many cowboys adopted war clubs after witnessing their effectiveness in Native American warfare. Unlike blades that could be dulled or firearms that could misfire, the war club was completely reliable. It never ran out of ammunition, never jammed, and required no maintenance beyond occasionally replacing a broken handle. What made the war club absolutely terrifying was its psychological impact. The wet, sickening sound of a skull being crushed was enough to break the will of nearby enemies. Cowboys, who carried war clubs, were advertising their willingness to engage in the most brutal, personal form of combat possible. The genius of the war club lay in its simplicity and devastating effectiveness. The heavy head concentrated all the force of a swing into a small impact area, creating crushing injuries that were almost always fatal. Even glancing blows could break arms, ribs, or cause severe concussions. But the war club's most obvious weakness was also its most dangerous. You had to get within arm's reach to use it effectively. Against multiple opponents or anyone with ranged weapons, the club user was extremely vulnerable while closing distance. Many skilled club fighters died under a hail of bullets while trying to get close enough to strike. The Wild West was a crucible that forged some of the deadliest weapons ever created, each one representing a different philosophy of survival and death. From the long-range precision of the Sharp's rifle to the brutal intimacy of the war club, these instruments of death shaped the legends we still tell today. What made these weapons truly legendary wasn't just their killing power, but the men who wielded them. Cowboys, lawmen, and outlaws who understood that in the unforgiving frontier, your weapon was often the only thing standing between you and a shallow grave. Each of these deadly tools carried with it a terrible trade-off. The Peacemaker's reliability came with slow reloading. The shotgun's devastating close-range power meant uselessness at distance, and the most powerful weapons often destroyed their users along with their enemies. The real lesson of these weapons isn't just about their mechanical ingenuity or devastating effectiveness. It's about the harsh reality of frontier life, where survival often came down to split-second decisions and the weapon in your hand. These legendary cowboys didn't just carry guns, they carried the instruments of their own survival, and often their own destruction. Which of these weapons surprised you the most? Were you shocked by the devastating power of the Walker Colt? Or did the silent lethality of the sword cane catch you off guard? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, there's a lot more deadly history to discover, so hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss our next deep dive into the weapons that shaped America's most legendary era. Until next time, keep exploring the brutal truths that Hollywood never dared to show.